Welcome to our very first Affinity Leadership Healing Circle. I'm so excited that you have joined us for this time of reflection, this time for self-care. We created our healing leadership spaces as a way for us to affirm identity groups and really to create a sanctuary at a time when there's so much going on in our world. We wanted you to feel loved, feel honored, respected, seen, and heard. And so this space is really going to be 25 minutes for you to tap into yourself, for you to tap into your soul, and hopefully leave feeling slightly more rejuvenated to continue to get up every day and to move in whatever purpose you've been called for at this particular time in your life. So we want to invite you in the chat box to just tell us where you're coming from and what brought you to the circle today. And as people begin to drop this in the chat box, look and see who else is a part of our space today. This space has been dedicated to folks who are leading DEI spaces, whether you are a Chief Diversity Officer, leading a DEI, or an affinity space for folks of color. This is your healing space. And since we have 30 minutes, I'm going to move us along. I want to set us up with some norms for our time together. Today, as we are in community with one another, we want to remind you that this is a brave space. This is a space where you can choose whether or not you want to share when we have the opportunity to, but this is a space for you to tap into yourself. It's a space for you to be in a non-judgment mindset, be thinking about, what am I learning about myself? How am I being graceful to who I am as a person and to other people in our community? What are the possibilities if I slow down and answer this prompt and begin to think about, what does it mean to heal myself? How can I begin to accept and expect non-closure, realizing that this is a space where we're together for 30 minutes and we can't possibly journal about everything, but we will give you something to start with that you can continue on with your practice. And so you will have to continue your closure post being with us. Continue to think about, as you go through the reflective question, that sometimes when we're in a world, people have all the best intentions to love us as DEI leaders, love us as Black people, love us as women, love us as people of Jewish ancestries, love us as Palestinian Americans. But sometimes it doesn't always go over well. And so part of this process is us working through what happens when people's good intentions have negatively impacted us. How can we begin to accept that as that's what has happened, but it doesn't have to become us? And maybe that'll give us courage to begin to get those other people to accept responsibility for when their intentions have gone wrong. But again, you don't have to fix them. This is us realizing that intention doesn't always equal impact, and we're going to begin to move through that. We also want to invite you to confidentiality. What you hear in our time today is going to be for you and your own learning. We will ask that you not share who was in the space or that you don't record any part of our time together. In fact, I am only recording the first 10 minutes of our time together, which is the protocol. Once I release the reflection questions, we will end the recording and it will just be us in this space. So if you're able to commit to this, we just want you to drop in the chat box, I commit, and that lets us know that you commit to our norms. I want to talk to you just a bit about who we are as DCC, and then we're going to jump right in. Our focus in the world is to expand the capacities of leaders to do good. We believe if we show people the tools and the strategies to do good, we're going to foster a more compassionate and equitable world. Our vision is that no matter what your background is, that you will be able to thrive freely on this planet. And so we spend our time developing purpose-driven leaders in 4 different ways. We work with people to transform their personal leadership. That's what you're doing today in this Affinity Leadership Healing Circle. We work with folks to build the capacity of their teams to do good. We work with folks who are saying, let's do this work across our organization. And then we look at folks who want to learn how to leverage data to make more informed decisions. We're guided by our core values of equity, love, and healing, and justice. And you're going to experience the coach in us. We're going to build your capacity to heal. We're going to give you some questions so that you can take some data for yourself on how to show up in a much more loving and affirmative way as it relates to your identity. And our questions are what we consider to be a blueprint for you. So we're planting this blueprint in the ground that you can ask yourself any of these questions at any given point in time in your personal life, even when you're not with us in circles. And we start with the Audre Lorde quote because we think this is really important. You know, caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. And Audre Lorde is an activist whose work we highly encourage you to read. But we put this quote in here because you taking 30 minutes to care for yourself, it's not self-indulgence. You deserve this time. This is about your self-preservation. And at a time when we're living in a world that's all about grind culture, that's all about hustle culture, that's all about working yourself to the point of exhaustion, it really is a political act of warfare for you to say, I'm not going to do that for 30 minutes during our workday. So we invite you to remove anything in your mind that might be saying, I should do something else, or remove anything in your mind that says, I should be, multitasking. Give yourself the gift of this time and you will not regret it. So we're going to move into our 2 reflective questions. I'm going to read the questions to you, and then I'm going to give you time to reflect on them individually. And then we will come together and share as a group. And then I will close us out from our time together. When we think about our Affinity Leadership Healing Circles, we created them because our beautiful, rich tapestry of diversity of identities is what makes the world beautiful. And so as we go through these 12 months, honoring our affinity groups, we want you to see that as a way to unapologetically own who you are. And the question I'm posing to you is, how am I currently using my power to unapologetically own my identity, my brilliance, and my expertise? What does that mean? How am I currently using my power? Your power is how you use your mindsets, your emotions, and your behavior in any given day. How are you using your own way you show up to be unapologetic about your identity as a DEI leader? No excuses. You are a DEI leader. You've chosen this path. How do you own that as a part of your work identity? How do you own your brilliance, which is the knowledge that you have as a person that's lived on this earth, that shapes your perspectives as a DEI leader? And how do you own your expertise, which is the knowledge that you have gained as a result of being in this role? And so we have this 3-way look at the question because, and we use this in our one-on-one coaching practice, because we tell folks you got to be unapologetic about your identity. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You got to own your brilliance, that you have lived on this earth, and brilliance is not equated to a degree. And you have to own your expertise, that you've taken some time to learn. You have some lived experience in the world. So go ahead and take a moment and answer this question. How am I currently using my power to unapologetically own my identity, my brilliance, and my expertise? For you, it could be that you have an affirmation that you say every day. For you, it could be, I'm not really using my power to own my identity. I'm actually hiding when I go to work. Or I'm living in a lot of self-doubt because everything that's happening in the world with the attack on DEI. Just be honest, non-judgmental. How are you currently using your power to unapologetically own? If you're doing it, great, list it. If you're not sure or you're stuck, you're trying to figure it out, go ahead and list that too. And I'm gonna pause the recording for a moment so that you can answer this question for yourself. Then I'm gonna go to the next question. Okay, welcome back. We hope you've had some time to reflect on that. And here's the second question. You've now had a chance to say how you're currently using your power. You've been honest with yourself. You've said, hey, here's where I'm using my power in ways where I'm owning my identity, my brilliance and expertise. And here's ways that I'm not using it to own my power. And now we want to get you to think about the second question, which is a step towards healing. And we have a longer healing pathway that we work with people on. And the first step in the healing pathway is to acknowledge your ability to use your power and how you're using it. That's what you did in the first question. And the second question begins to position us towards how do we change to live in our highest version of self? And that's this question. What's the next best practical step to honor my humanity daily? We could write a 12-page essay on what steps you can do, but we want you to be practical. What's the next best practical step to honor your humanity daily? If you are going to show up in a way that owned your identity, brilliance, and expertise, because that's honoring your humanity, friend. What's the next best practical step, basic step that you can do to honor that daily? For some of you, it might be that you wake up in the morning and you journal on how you want to show up in ways that unapologetically owns your identity. For somebody else, it might be that you sign up for therapy because you realize, hey, I need some support. For someone else, it may mean that you have tea time in the middle of the day, every day, and ask yourself, how am I honoring my humanity? Go ahead and take a moment to answer this question. And we're going to pause the video for you to do that. And then I'm going to ask you to add this as an alarm reminder in your phone. So whatever next step you choose, I want you to put it in as an alarm reminder. If it's setting an appointment, when you're going to set that appointment, put that as a reminder in your phone. If it's an affirmation, if it's journal time, tea time, go ahead and put it as an alarm in your phone so that you can hold yourself accountable. And then I'll invite us back and share with you anchors and sanctuaries, and then we'll be done. So thank you so much for making some time to be with us today and to begin to first ask yourself, how are you currently using your power to unapologetically own your identity, brilliance, and expertise, owning that affinity? And secondly, to ask yourself, what's the next best practical step to honor your humanity? Something that you can do every day. That's why it has to be practical. And lastly, we realize that some people find it helpful to have some recommendations and suggestions. And so we leave you with a practice of anchors and sanctuaries that we share with everyone in our practice. And anchors and sanctuaries is a term borrowed from Dr. Ronald Heifetz, who is the author and leader of adaptive leadership, and someone who I studied under while at Harvard. And he talks about that in the course of exercising adaptive leadership that's around changing mindsets and behaviors and, in many ways trying to create a fair and just world, then we need to have anchors and sanctuaries, things to ground us in the moment so that we can sustain ourselves in the process. And so anchors are things that you can do in the moment to remind yourself that everything is going to be okay when you feel destabilized. And so some of these anchors could be asking yourself in the moment, what's giving you hope? An anchor could be to recite your core values if you're feeling a little destabilized. An anchor could be you stepping away and meditating in the hallway, stepping out, going to the bathroom, doing a 30-second breath meditation. That's something you can do in the moment to ground you when you need to hold steady. And then there's sanctuaries or things that you can do every day that might take a little bit more time than an anchor. So your sanctuary could be that every morning you have tea in your favorite chair. It could be that every day after work that you take a walk in nature, even if it's around the block. It's a time when you're not thinking about your job, you're not thinking about anything else, you're just thinking about tending to yourself. It might be that before you go to sleep at night, you write 5 things you love as a way to ground yourself before you go to sleep. So these are ways that you can sustain yourself, that you can honor your humanity, that you can honor unapologetically your identity, brilliance, and expertise as a DEI leader. We need you so much in this world. And so we hope that you have found this time very helpful and that you will play this recording again, just to go back and think about, how am I using my power to unapologetically own my identity, my brilliance, my expertise as a DEI leader? Am I doing it? Am I not doing it? Non-judgmentally, it's okay if you're not. But what's really going on? You got to be honest with yourself. And then to ask yourself the second question: what's the next best practical step to honor my humanity? And we honor our humanity by being unapologetic about who we are. What's the next best thing I can do? And then how am I going to put that on my cell phone and remind myself to do that action and to practice it daily? And feel free to print these anchors and sanctuaries and post them in your office, save it in your phone. We will also send it out to you as a PDF and a follow-up email. And we invite you to answer a few questions on our survey that I'll drop in the chat box to let us know what worked for you today and how we can get better. Thank you all so much for your time today. And remember that you always have power and choice, and it's up to you to decide how you want to use it. Take care.